presentation that I'll be given would be on NICS, governance arrangements for shrimp and groundfish in the northern Brazil shelf-large marine ecosystem. I would be providing some context under which this review is focused, including the specifics of the project being reviewed, describe in brief the three-country NIC assessment that was conducted, present some major findings and conclusions, then wrap up with some implications for future work. Now, jumping right into it. In the Caribbean, there has been an expressed need for more integrated and coordinated approaches, as you've heard colleagues express in their previous presentations, especially within the context of marine and ocean governance. Over the most recent decade, there have been many LME projects, one being the CRFM project, which Dr. Mohan would have spoken to. And under the CRFM project, there were several international, regional, and sub-regional organizations, many of whom are present at this week's scientific conference, and they have all collaborated within the context of an ecosystem approach to fisheries and an ecosystem-based management for improved governance of transboundary living marine resources using integrated, coordinated, and participatory approaches. Now, central to the effective management of all marine resources is national level governance. The implementation of management actions and policies occurs primarily at the national level. Therefore, NIC, so National Intersectoral Committees for Good and Effective Governance of Marine Resources, especially transboundary resources such as shrimp and groundfish, is fundamental to achieving national goals and, by extension, regional and global ocean policy goals and objectives. Now, the North Brazil Shelf LME supports one of the most important export-oriented shrimp and groundfish fisheries. It has been reported that shrimp and groundfish production within recent years has been in excess of 300,000 tons annually, with an estimated value of $400 million US. In 2019 through the beginning of 2020, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, and the University of the West Indies Center for Resource Management and Environmental Studies, UESLME, collaborated under the ecosystem approach to shrimp and groundfish fisheries in the North Brazil Shelf Large Marine Ecosystem Project. An output of this project was to support participatory governance arrangements such as NICS by strengthening or establishing these arrangements for improved coordination within fisheries at the national level. The objectives of the project was to conduct a three-country study, and the three project countries were Guyana, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. The other objectives were to identify the most suitable NIC arrangement, develop recommendations and guidelines, and increase NIC awareness for improved fisheries governance. A mixed methods approach was used, whereby primary and secondary data were collected to inform the assessment of NICs for fisheries governance within each of the project countries. The primary data included key informant interviews and learning exchange workshops, as well as opportunistic meetings with other key stakeholders using snowball sampling. And secondary data included, but was not limited to, looking at existing studies, ongoing research, which includes some work from my PhD studies, as well as documents such as technical reports. Now, based on the data that were collected, a few NICs were identified in each country. Now, the table that you're looking at here represents the NIC that was identified as the most suitable NIC at the time of the study for fisheries governance. So for Guyana, the most suitable NIC was the Fisheries Advisory Committee. For Suriname, it was the Advisory Council for Marine Fisheries, and for Trinidad and Tobago, it was the working group that was attached to the REBEC project. The information collected on each NIC was assessed using the ideal features of the NIC, and the ideal features there are listed in the far left column. So give you a sense of what these ideal features are in brief. So the ideal NIC should have a comprehensive inclusion of stakeholders, should have an enabling environment, be fully endorsed, have a well-established review process, have a national multi-level integration of sectors, and have a mandate that can address specific tasks. Now you see all the different colors in the table. So the green means that the information collected on the NIC when compared to the ideal was definitely to mostly true. The yellow shadings mean that the information collected on the NIC when compared to the ideal was somewhat true, and the red shading means that the information collected on the NIC when compared to the ideal was either uncertain or no information was collected because it was difficult to do so. Now, it can be observed from the table that no NIC possessed all the ideal features. However, at least 3 features were apparent in the most suitable NIC across all 3 countries, and we're talking about those green shadings. So those 3 features that were shared across countries were a comprehensive inclusion of stakeholders, having a mandate that addresses specific tasks, and having a multi-level integration of stakeholders. So the links across the 3 countries shared those. Some investigation was done to provide an update to this assessment, and it was found that in Guyana, the FACT still functions. It has had some interruptions during COVID, and there remains great capacity for strengthening. In Trinidad and Tobago, the REBEC project, to which the working group was attached, ended in 2021. However, the approval of the revised Fisheries Act, which they're still awaiting, should see the establishment of a Fisheries Advisory Committee. Specific features of NICs need to be better supported. So going back to the table, you're seeing still quite a few bits of the yellow shadings and at least one red shading. And these are the areas where more support is needed, such as having an enabling environment, being fully endorsed with clear mandates and clear review and evaluation processes. A link with a mandate for fisheries governance needs to be established for Trinidad and Tobago. In the research that was done on NICs, key stakeholders were asked about the good governance principles that were most critical to supporting and sustaining NICs. And across all 3 countries, accountability, responsiveness, and transparency were recognized as being the most critical. So within the context of climate change and economic growth, the sustainable use of shrimp and groundfish resources is of great national importance and interest. In closing, NICs are essential for national level coordination and communication across multiple levels. While a NIC may not possess all the ideal features, this does not mean it is not or cannot be effective. How well a NIC effectiveness speaks to good governance still needs to be better understood, since NIC can come in different forms and flavors. The current and future work on fisheries, specifically shrimp and groundfish in the Northern Brazil Shelf LME, should ideally include support for NICs. There are at least a few projects that can provide such support, such as the EAF for shrimp and groundfish, Fish for ACP, BCLME Plus, which we have heard mentioned before, and Pro-Caribe. The CRFM is collaborating within activities of these projects, as well as others, which include but not limited to the Continental Shelf Working Group Fish Stock Assessments, which is currently ongoing, the implementation of the guidance document approved by the Ministerial Council on Better Positioning Small-Scale Fisheries and Aquaculture in the Regional Blue Economy, and the 11th EDF SPS project on trade and safety, of which colleagues would have alluded to in their presentations. So for the sake of time, I will end here, and I encourage all to read the article that will be published in October in the CRFM's manuscript on the conference proceedings.